By the Edge of the Sword. This is Swords of Sovereignty, Battle of Ordingen, really the end, almost the end of turn 3. 8 turns altogether in the battle. A lot of stuff to talk about. Kind of up front, really a great system. Really a great system. And also this, I think this Swords of Sovereignty is even one of the, I mean, if you want a great place to get into the series, I think Swords of Sovereignty is it. So it has the Battle of Bouvines from the year 1214, and then Vordingen here from the year 1288. I think this battle seems to be a great place to start while still getting a full battle. I mean, it is a full battle, and it is just great fun. Now that being said, the other preview. So there are two pieces of the preview here. One, great system. So number two, yeah, I messed up a rule. I messed up a pretty significant rule, fundamental rule actually. But I went back to the rules and I figured out what threw me off. It's pretty significant. I think that what's the upshot of me doing the rule wrong? There would have been even more fighting, even more units involved in the melees. In this case, melees. And by melees, I mean charges and melees. There would have been even more units involved, which means there would have been even more effects. Yeah. So first of all, au fil de l'épée, by the edge of the sword. It's a rule system. I always thought this was a Middle Ages. I keep wanting to say Middle Eastern, a Middle Ages series. But actually, I realized that they do. And I thought it was a Middle Ages system. But I was thinking, these are always such late battles in the Middle Ages. Well, actually, now I see it's specified in the rules. This is a system for battles of the High Middle Ages, which is great. But if I had my choice, I'd actually like a system that focused on the Low Middle Ages. So I'm talking about 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th centuries. Again, if I had my choice. So what does High Middle Ages means? I do believe the system is up to almost 40 battles. It covers, the system covers battles like Formigny in 4050, Poitiers in 1356. It covers Benevento in 1266. I'm just going to cover the battles that I easily recognize. Las Navas de Tolosa in the battle in the year 1212. It covers it covers Morgarten in the year 1315, Sempach in 1386, Granson in 1476, Neville's Cross in 1346. So it really is late Middle Age, or as it's translated here, High Middle Ages, but late Middle Ages. Oderburn, 1388. I mean, it really focuses on, even though I see it does have Dorelay in 1097. It's got Valles Dunes in 1047. It's got a battle in 1057, 1066. But actually, most of the battles really are 13th century, 14th century, and 15th century. Those are the 3 centuries actually that most of the battles look to be from. And some of them are quite late. I mean, if you're talking 1465, you're talking 1476, and that's almost the year 1500. I mean, that's, yeah. Great system. I mean, just great. It's helping me, as I usually try to do. I've been reading up on Constant World forums with the series, which is helping me appreciate the design even more. That's actually reading there is when I got the idea that, oh, I missed something. So what did I miss? What was the rule? Oh man, I was led to believe that units can always choose to melee whoever they want, period. That's actually not true. Actually, it's as you might actually expect. If a unit melees an enemy in its front hex, it must melee all enemies in its front hexes. Remember, these units have 3 front hexes, not 2. They're facing a hex side, so the front 3 hexes are their front. They're not facing a hex vertex, so they don't have 2 front hexes, they have 3. So again, if a unit melees an enemy in one of its front hexes, it must melee all enemies in its front hexes. The only exception, again as you would expect, there's nothing unusual about this, the only exception is a unit will not have to melee an enemy in its front hexes as long as that enemy unit is being attacked by another friendly unit. So that's quite typical, nothing unusual about that rule whatsoever. But here's why I was thrown off, and I made a note of this so that I never forget this. I'm starting to learn my lesson with making these videos, and it really is making the videos that's helping me learn these lessons. So I'm starting to, with these games, with the games that I play, and all of them are being recorded these days, I'm starting to make little review notes. And here's why. These rules are very, 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 very good, okay? I do not fault the rules at all. I don't think rules can be perfect. I do believe that, for one person, it makes more sense that a rule be written one way, but for another person, it makes more sense that it be written another way. It's the exact same rule. Rules writers can't write a set of rules for everybody at the same time. However, having said that, there is something that rules designers or game designers and rules writers can do, and that is after you've done the best job you possibly can to write a rule set, you should then, through playtesting and frankly player feedback, you should make a cheat sheet, which is basically your review sheet, which is kind of like pay attention to these things, don't be confused by these things. So that's what I'm just going to start doing that myself. So I wrote down, I said compare rule section 10.1 where it says never obligatory, compare that with rule section 10.4 where it says must attack all enemy units. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about at the very front, 10.1, chapter 10 is melees. At the very, very front of 10.1, it says on its own, it's even its own paragraph, one sentence, 4 words, melee is never obligatory, period. Well, I always took that to mean exactly what it said. Melee is never obligatory. The problem is that 3 rule sections later, in rule section 10.4, where it's talking about declarations of melees, it also says very clearly, if a unit chooses to initiate a melee, it must attack all enemy units situated in its front hexes, with the exception of those already being attacked by other friendly units in the same phase deactivation. So the problem here is that not only are there several rule sections between these 2 statements, there's actually almost a whole page of examples and diagrams inserted between these 2 places in the rules. So now, what would be ideal for me? For me, it would have been way at the beginning of the melee section, where it says melee is never obligatory, period. It should have said melee is, for me it should have said melee is never obligatory, comma, except or however, if a unit chooses melee, blah, 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 blah. So again, it's here, it's in black and white, and again, I want to make it really clear, rules cannot be perfect. People are going to access rules differently. They're going to process rules differently. It's just the nature of the beast. Great system though. By the edge of the sword. If If you like Middle Ages, play it.